This experience for me happened in 2009 when my mother was having health problems. She was living with our family. However, it wasn't long before her health began to deteriorate rapidly. A few months ago, she was in a coma. The pain in her knees had been tormenting her, which made her life more difficult. Toward the end of her life, she became extremely depressed. My mom and I have always maintained a very close relationship. We had a deep bond, and she was the kindest person I have ever met. She loved her children and grandchildren dearly. The night before she died, there was an argument between my mom and me. This was a very rare occurrence between us. The reason for the argument was that she was planning to move out and live with my aunt. We had told her many times that this was not a good idea because my aunt had always been an alcoholic and it could have a negative effect on her health and life. During that heated argument, I said some very hurtful things that I regretted afterwards. I wish I could take back the words that hurt her. That night's argument left me with a painful memory. The next morning, I was awakened by the sound of the alarm clock in my mother's bedroom. Usually, she woke up with me when the kids were getting ready for school. I knocked on her bedroom door, but it was locked. Anxiety began to build up inside me as I realized that something might not be right. Eventually, I decided to open the bedroom door. As I entered the bedroom, I fell to my knees, and I was met with an unbelievable scene. My mother was lying quietly on the bed and her breathing had stopped. I don't know the exact time, but I could sense that she had died early in the morning or late at night, and that she had left us peacefully in her sleep. Her body was very cold, which made me even more convinced that she had passed away. I could not accept this reality. In her hand, she was still holding a cross, which seemed to be her comfort in her last moments. The scene shook me deeply. When I saw the sleeping pills on the table, I realized that my mother had committed suicide. I was shocked and confused. In Christianity, suicide is usually considered a serious offense, which can result in the permanent banishment of one's soul. I knew that my mother was a devout Christian, yet she had made this decision. At the funeral, the pastor recited a prayer, asking God for forgiveness and also praying for the salvation of my mother's soul. Christmas that year was a very sad time for us. During the holiday season, we had to deal with the loss of our mother. As time passed, I still could not fully accept the reality that she was gone. Sometimes I felt as if she was still in the house. Sometimes it is very strange to have my things suddenly disappear and then find them in another place. In life, my mother also had a habit of leaving things lying around. Over the next few months, I fell into a depression. One night, everything changed. I had just closed my eyes when I realized I was in a strange room. The sun was shining through the window, illuminating the room with warmth and brightness. I remember feeling an indescribable sense of peace and happiness. My first thought was to go to the window because the sunlight felt so warm on my skin. The place gave me a sense of relaxation that I hadn't felt in a long time. Through the glass, I see a peaceful garden. Flowers of all colors flutter in the breeze. There are brightly colored roses and elegant tulips, which open up piece by piece, giving off their fragrance. In the center of the garden, there was a small fountain, the water droplets glittering in the sunlight, emitting a diamond-like glow. In the distance, I saw a forest. A flock of birds flew through the air. As I stepped out of that room, day suddenly turned into night. The garden in front of me disappeared. I looked ahead and found a huge playground. The whole scene was filled with mesmerizing colors. These colors, which I had never seen in real life, could not be described by common colors. Those colors were so brilliant, so unique, as if they were from another world. There, I saw a huge and beautiful Ferris wheel, which kept spinning in the night sky. I turned my head to the right and was surprised to find my mother standing beside me. I was very surprised by her appearance. She looked exactly the same as she did when she was alive, without the slightest change in her features. Her eyes were filled with warmth. I asked her, "Mom, is it really you?" The moment I said this, her appearance suddenly changed. She changed back to the way she looked when she was in her 20s. She was wearing a gorgeous evening gown which glowed a deep blue color. The gown was embellished with shimmering silver sequins. She looked young and beautiful. She glowed with youth and vigor. She looked at me with a smile and then quickly ran away as if she had been set free. I rushed into the playground after her. As we stood there, 3 angels appeared before us. These angels were wearing pure white robes. The robes looked very light, as if they were made of feathers. Their blonde hair shone like the sun. Their turquoise blue eyes were deep and clear, radiating incomparable compassion and serenity. Although these angels were not very tall, their presence was solemn and mysterious. We communicated telepathically. Though no speech or words were used, they were able to deeply understand each other's thoughts and emotions. This communication transcended the limitations of words. The angel took us deeper into the amusement park. Here I saw some strange buildings that were completely different from the real world. One building looked like it was constructed of rainbows and glowed with brilliant colors. Another building took on a fantastic geometric shape that seemed to be made of crystals and glass, reflecting dazzling light. We followed the angel into one of the buildings. The interior of the building was spacious and bright. The walls seemed to be made of crystal. In the center of the room was a huge crystal table with various rare gems that gave off a shimmering light. There was also a mirror inside the room. I approached the mysterious mirror, my eyes watching myself. This was no ordinary mirror, but a mysterious object with supernatural powers. In the mirror, I saw my past. On the couch in the living room, my mother always held me in her arms. At that time, she would often read fairy tales to me. I also saw us making crafts together. My mother always encouraged me, and she taught me how to draw and make small crafts. Those times were so happy and meaningful. Whenever I was in trouble, my mother was always by my side. These memories played like a movie in the mirror, making me feel as if I had returned to those wonderful moments. In the mirror, I also saw many visions of the future. I was in a serious car accident in my old age that caused me to lose my leg. This scene was shown very vividly in the mirror. I saw myself lying at the scene of a car accident. Vehicles were damaged, emergency vehicles and paramedics surrounded me. My expression was filled with pain. The sight was very disturbing to me. I asked the angels around me if these things could really happen. My eyes were filled with unease, and I desperately needed an answer. The angel looked at me, and he responded telepathically to my question. Not necessarily, the angels told me, the future is full of uncertainty, and just because you see the scene in the mirror doesn't mean it will happen. Life is full of possibilities, and your choices and behaviors affect the future. Next, we went up a flight of stairs together to another room. Inside the room were 2 things that looked like bathtubs, one located on the left side of the wall and the other on the right side of the wall. The tubs were filled with clear liquid. My mother looked at me, then, she walked towards one of the tubs and immersed herself in the liquid. Then, a piece of clear glass covered the top of the tub, completely enclosing her inside. My mind was filled with confusion as to what this meant. It was one of the strangest things I had ever seen. Suddenly, I felt the whole space move upward. I felt intense love. As if God was right next to me. Even though I couldn't see him with my own eyes, I could feel his presence. I left that room and found a sidewalk wide enough for 4 people to walk side by side. I was surrounded by other people, but they didn't notice me. As I looked to my left, I saw majestic peaks and waterfalls. Below the peak was a beautiful valley filled with wildflowers. If you think the colors on Earth are gorgeous, you're wrong. The colors here are much more muted, some of which I've never even seen before, much less know how to describe them. As I continued walking on the sidewalk, I saw a garden on my right. It was filled with fruit trees. The gates were covered with vines. I was ready to check out the garden when, just then, a voice came from behind me who warned me not to enter the garden. Although I didn't see anyone, I knew he was God. If you ask me, how do you know it was God? All I can tell you is that when you were there, you won't doubt what I'm saying. The sheer joy of being there is irresistible. I felt like I was home. I made my heart's desire known to God that I longed to be reunited with my mother and wanted to be with her. However, God said to me, "No, it is not time for you to leave. You must stay on earth and learn more." To this day, I still ponder what knowledge I need to learn. This question haunts me. Even though I don't understand the exact answer, I believe that time will give the answer. Then, the scene in front of me slowly began to become blurry. I kept falling through the air. Although I didn't feel any discomfort, I felt a little scared because I had no idea where I would be going. It seemed like I had been falling for a very long time, and eventually I landed in a place that looked like a market. I suddenly woke up from my dream. That dream was so real and shocking. I thought over and over again about everything that had happened. I felt that it was all God's arrangement. God had brought me to my mother to help her ascend to heaven. My mother needed my company and guidance to find her way to heaven. As skeptical as such an experience may be, for me, it was the truest thing I have ever experienced. Not only did this experience make me rethink the meaning of life and death, but it also touched my deepest emotions.